Hi guys, what's going on, and welcome back to another video on Conqueror's Blade. So today we are revisiting a slightly older unit, the Prefecture Pikes. This is a unit that certainly had a little bit of a roller coaster of buffs and nerfs over its time. Back when this thing used to release, and this is back pre-season, this unit used to be crazy. It used to be able to charge through multiple heroes, multiple units, absolutely dominated. Everyone used it. And then, obviously, since then, it's had a handful of nerfs, it sort of deteriorated quite a lot, completely fell out of favour. But more recently, it has started to come back into favour, had a few little buffs. Its damage is starting to come back up, and it is quite the hero killer. If you catch a hero with the charge on this unit, then you're pretty much guaranteed the kill, and that makes it kind of interesting. In terms of sort of stat-wise, the unit is really all about the charge. Beyond that, they're kind of just like almost like a worse version of Pike Militia. They don't get a brace, the only ability they get is charge, so they're really not a Pike unit in an anti-cavalry traditional sense. And in loose formation, okay, yeah, they can pick up a little bit of damage occasionally, but it's really not a lot. Defensively, you know, mid 300s, it basically means it's going to stop nothing. Even low tier archers are going to be dealing full damage to these, and at only 8700 hit points, they've not got a lot of health to really tank any damage either. Obviously, they just do pure piercing damage, and because their piercing AP is quite high, that means they do good damage on the charge, and they do reasonable sort of stab damage in the loose formation. In terms of veterancy line, I've gone down the bottom for the increased charge down there. The column formation as well, particularly, is one, you know, really gets them into a nice sort of narrow, well, column, I guess. Clues in the name, which makes it quite handy for charging. Going on down, you know, a 30% increased charge damage, got charge cooldowns, longer charge, more charge damage, etc, etc. Charging Daisy's units as well, which is pretty nice. Means the bottom line is really the only way to go. You get a little bit of extra units and stuff along here, but you even get the extra armor penetration from the top line anyway. There's actually room for it. So yeah, bottom line, it's certainly the way to go on this unit. Doctrines wise, charge cooldown 9%. Obviously, the unit is all about the charge. Get that on it. Means your charge is still got a reasonable cooldown, but you're actually getting it down to a reasonable level now from that sort of base 60-second cooldown that it should be at level 1 with no doctrines. On top of that, as I said, it's all about the hero killing, although the charge is now to the point it's actually quite effective, or can be quite effective against some units as well, so kind of worth considering that. A little bit of extra piercing penetration and piercing damage, and just their health doctrine to try and keep them alive a little bit longer. Their armor stats are just too low, really, to really warrant putting on something like a piercing defense or something, in my opinion. I've not really got anything else useful to stick on them, particularly. I suppose you could put like an anti-cav one, but considering they don't get a brace, kind of seems a little bit redundant to me. Unit kit wise, obviously we're only a silver era unit, so we're not looking too bad. 1160, pretty reasonable, pretty easy to maintain. So let's hop into some battles with them and see kind of what we can do with them and see who we can flatten some of our chargers. So we kick things off on Harbour City. Just a little bit of a mini fight on the gateway against these couple of squires who tried to push out. But as those stalwarts turn up, I decide that's not for me, time to run away. How we avoided that fire drop, I'm not entirely sure, but I'll take it. I do find I don't tend to have very long games with these guys. They're a fairly disposable unit, and because they're a relatively low leadership cost, I'm not overly worried if they die, to be honest. I do sort of use them as a disposable unit, and that's kind of how I play them here as well. So as the team starts to push up the siege tower, I'm starting to come up with the unit. Going to look for my opportunity to try and get my clean charge in. Obviously I need the whole unit to sort of gather up as one block effectively, and then we turn around, get nicely spread across the street and go for our charge. They tend to have quite a long charge, as in they land and then they kind of keep running, applying damage for a second or two afterwards. Grabs is a nice easy hero kill. Any hero who basically stands in front of them will get killed by them. So they are quite effective in that sense. And then we just leave them in hand to hand. Because it's a fight we're going to win, we may take another casualty or two, but it's helping us to push forwards. Then we turn around to sort of bring our focus to bear on the A point. Bring the unit up, start stabbing in a little bit at the side. Didn't really want to go full head on into that stalwart. A couple of seeded R's, but we don't really take any casualties. And we grab an extra sort of kill or two. But realistically, this is not their forte. Their forte is their charge. That's what they're all about. And when you just use them in sort of hand-to-hand, they don't really do a great deal in most situations. And generally, they just get themselves killed. So we go for the A cap. I guess I've got two options now. I could pull back to the supply point, get the unit healed up because it is quite badly damaged, or I can push on. If I had a more expensive unit, I would pull back to the supply point here. But since the team is one moving as well, and it's not really worth the leadership cost for the extra time it's going to take me a minute basically to get back to the supply point, heal up and get back again. Well, that's a minute that I'm not on the front line with the team, and in my opinion it's worth losing the unit to help keep the momentum going. Having said that though, I am a bit nervous about the enemy cavalry that's loitering around the back. You can just see them on the minimap in the bottom corner, and they're kind of kicking around, and I think they might be looking to sort of clean charge down the back of this alleyway. And remember, this unit does not have any brace abilities. There's the cav, so I make for the stairs to try and get out the way, but actually they don't come for us, they flick round the back side of the supply point, which kind of surprised me. I think they could have kind of got away with that as a charge, to be honest. But since they go that way, and then our Iron Reapers get stuck in, I thought, well, if he's sending his tier 5 in, then I've got to send my unit in. So we come up, get lined up, go for the charge, and actually, it pans out pretty nicely. Even quite a lot of damage, even against enemy infantry units. We get the charge in, get ourselves 20, 30 kills, whatever it is, and then I think about pulling them back, because realistically, you know, they're not very good in hand-to-hand. But actually, quite a lot of the unit is already dead, and actually, this is a proper fight now. We've got a lot of stuff here, and I don't know if we're going to be winning or not. So I decide to leave the unit in the fight. You know, ultimately capturing this supply point is quite a key point on this map. So I wanted to do what I can to actually get the, get the team in, help where I can. So I just left the unit in sort of free-for-all. And ultimately, they slowly wilt away and get themselves killed. Against stuff like paladins head-on, they're just not going to really cut it. We do manage to get a little bit of a fighting on still with our pike. Almost got myself killed, but the abilities allow us to get out of it. Next up, we're over onto Desert Fort. Enemies have been making a little bit of a push on this side of the map, but we're starting to beat them back fairly now. And I sense a little bit of an opportunity to kind of get up and try and get a few hero kills as they retreat. Just charge straight down the tunnel. Pretty just straightforward. Managed to grab ourselves a kill and pretty much 3/4 of another kill, but we just don't quite get to secure it. Clear off a couple of enemy archers and we're through. Pulling back, obviously don't want to go on a bit of a long chase with them. Obviously charges on cooldown as well. And since they've taken kind of a reasonable amount of damage, I initially pull them back just behind A, but then I think it's worth going back to the supply point. Even though that has kind of been captured by the enemy at the moment, I think just one enemy hero snuck in, so I'll send them back to the supply point. Once they're healed up, I was pulling back out to go to the A point, when there's actually a fair bit of pressure coming through the main gateway. A little bit of stuff starting to build up, at least anyway. There's also some pressure going up to the A point, so I'm kind of umming and ahhing a little bit about which way I kind of want to go. Thinking about pushing up to A, but I'm also concerned that if they start to make a serious push through that gateway, we could be in trouble. As they start to come out, some of the friendly heroes start to get involved, so I think it's kind of worth me helping out here. Pull around on a little bit of a loop so I can get a nice sort of clean charge off. But as we come round, we get friendly Maul manages to grab this short sword. We actually get a reasonable amount of damage on him. They do have long pikes, so they can get most of them involved in the damage dealing at the same time. And with him eliminated, we kind of set up for a charge. And you just look at the sort of damage we do against the unit here is really quite impressive. Although that poor little bow hero absolutely run over by the pikes. The Maul tries to get on his horse, but with the pike charge, that does quite a lot of damage to his mount, and so he goes down pretty quickly as well. Kind of just shows how you can get the repeated charges with them. But despite all that, most of the time, that's not how I play the unit, and that's not how I think most other people play the unit either. The reality is that I normally get one charge out of the unit, and I'm just going for maximum damage in that one charge, accepting that the unit is probably going to die. And that's just a prime example of what we do here. Get lined up, go straight for the charge, straight into the enemy heroes, double kill straight from the off, quite a bit of unit kills as well, and we then get the opportunity just to get stuck in with a little bit of ultimate and finish off by stabbing through the back that longsword. Because we hit him from behind, we were able to crit him and do enough damage to finish him off. They then even put a treb against us, but pretty much end up trebbing themselves, which was a nice end. And that's how most of my Prefecture Pike matches go. And you just use them as a solo charging unit. Either way, certainly a fun unit, even if perhaps not the greatest unit in the game. Anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. If you have, let me know what you think in the comments down below. And of course, subscribe to the channel for a lot more Conqueror's Blade content. Thanks for watching, guys, and I shall see you all on the next one.